Yo, what's up, boys and girls? Swolelax here, and I'm back at again with another video. This time something a little bit different. Today, welcome back to another extra special deck profile. I've got an insane Gouki Nightmare or Nightmare Gouki deck. This thing is super fun. It's a crazy combo deck. I love it so much. I built a more budget-friendly version because I saw there were a few cards in there inside of most deck lists that weren't necessarily the most cheapest options, so to speak. But so I was able to kind of go around them and make a very nice, very consistent deck. Whoop, kind of spoilers there. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. We've got 3 copies of the Man, the Myth, the Legend, Gouki Suprex. Gouki Suprex is an insane card inside this deck. This deck is mainly comprised of Gouki monsters and combo starters, but this dude is probably the best, to be honest. All the Gouki monsters have 2 effects. They have a main effect, and then they have a when sent to the graveyard from the field effect. So Gouki Suprex is that whenever it's normal summon, you can special summon 1 Gouki monster from your hand. So you essentially can get Isolde right off the bat. When you normal summon this card out, you can summon Rescorpio, Bear Hug, Octo Stretch, any of them. And most importantly, all the Gouki monsters have, when they're sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a Gouki card from your deck to your hand. So any of the Gouki Rematch, Gouki Face Turn, and any of the Gouki cards, as long as they're not the same card as it says. So if it's Gouki Suprex sent to the grave, you can't add back a Suprex, but you can add Twist Cobra, and then etc., etc. All the Gouki monsters share that same effect. It is the reason why this deck functions super well. It was designed and pretty much made to be abused by link summoning. It's incredible. So 3 of those are a must. It is a crazy, crazy good card. Next, we got 3 copies of Gouki Twist Cobra in beautiful mixed rarities. Gouki Twist Cobra, you are running 3 of this card, not necessarily because you want to see it super often, but just because you want to see a lot of the Gouki cards like this and Suprex and Headbat, just to kind of get it in. I'm going to be honest, the Gouki monsters' second or first effects past Suprex and Headbat don't really matter. You're really just using them as summon fodder. Just kind of simplify things a lot so you don't have to kind of read through the text. Just know that this card can boost the attack of a Gouki monster on the field. Not super important, not really going to come up super often, but again, you're mainly using it for the search, and you kind of want to see this card, honestly, as your starter card with Suprex or Captain with Goblin, something like that. So 3 of those are good. Next, I'm running 3 copies of Gouki Headbat. Headbat is super fun to play. I like him a lot. Not only does he join the sick card club because of his card artwork, him, Suprex, and then essentially all the Gouki monsters join the sick card club. It's pretty great. This card has 2 effects that are pretty important. Obviously, you got the search effect that all the Gouki monsters share, and then its first effect is that you can discard a Gouki monster from your hand, target a Gouki monster on the field, and special summon him in defense mode. This is a really important part of the combo to get the whole Nightmare Imperial Order board with Tri-Gate Wizard. It's super great, and the fact that you can do that with any Gouki monster and discard any card is incredible. So 3 of those for sure. Next, we are running 2 copies of Gouki Octo Stretch. Octo Stretch, funny enough, is kind of the worst Gouki monster to run. You don't really want to see him very often, and only running 2 of them just for the coverage, just in case you can't summon out 1 or you need to summon out another one. He's kind of okay. His first effect is a hand trap effect. Again, the rest of the Gouki monsters' first effects aren't necessarily important. What you kind of need to know is that this card is going to be summoned with Isolde from your deck. That is kind of the best way of putting it, just so I can make things really simple. And finally, for the Gouki monsters, you're running 1 copy of Gouki Bear Hug and 1 copy of Gouki Rescorpio. These 2 cards are your big boys of the Gouki monsters. You're only running 1 of them because you cannot normal summon them, nor do they have effects that you can special summon out them from your hand. Rescorpio's effect is slightly better than Bear Hug's, being that if you control no monsters or only cards you control are Gouki monsters, then you can normal summon him onto the field, which is pretty nice and can kind of come in handy with some interesting niche play. But overall, you're going to be using these either as discard fodder or, again, for the whole Gouki loops, just to kind of get your cards back in order. And that's going to be it for the Gouki monsters. We're going to go ahead and go on to the combo extenders. These monsters are going to be used in tandem with Gouki monsters, just to go into Isolde Turbo, essentially. We got 3 copies of Marauding Captain. Marauding Captain is a classic Yu-Gi-Oh card. Level 3 Earth Warrior monster. It's the perfect typing for this deck. And what you can do is when this card is normal summoned, it has a Suprex effect, meaning that you can summon a level 4 or lower monster from your hand. Super crazy good, can come in clutch in a lot of plays, and is super nice. And really budget, which is great. Next, we're running 2 copies of Goblin. This card is essentially a Marauding Captain as well. It's just an additional monster. It's Earth and it's Warrior, just to kind of get those combos off. I'm not running Junk Forward, unfortunately, just because that card is like it's $10 to $12 a copy. So like I said, it's more of a budget-friendly option, having Goblin and Marauding Captain. In addition to that, I'm running 3 copies of Galaxy Worm. Galaxy Worm, kind of in a weird way, is a roundabout Junk Forward, being that you can, when this card is normal summon and you control no monsters, you can special summon essentially another Galaxy Worm out from your deck. This card is a 1-card Izzled in a way, because you can go into Invoker, activate Invoker's effect, get your Gouki card, yada yada yada. This card is actually pretty good. Now, unfortunately, its typing and its attribute isn't ideal for the deck. Again, Junk Forward is your most optimal card with this, but if you're looking for a nice budget option and you don't want to spend, $30 on those 3 copies, then Galaxy Worm is pretty good. And I haven't had any problems in terms of consistency or, any other real issues with cutting out Junk Forward, but just to make it a little more optimal, do keep that in mind. Next, onto the hand traps. We're running 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit and 2 copies of Effect Violer. So these are, of course, more of the budget options for the hand traps in this format. Drone Luckbird's incredibly powerful, and Ash Blossom, of course, being the 2, I think, the best hand traps going forward inside of this meta. But those cards are expensive. So we are running 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, 2 copies of Effect Violer. Effect Violer being you can negate your opponent's monster effects, kind of the infinite permanence. And Ghost Ogre destroys a card, aka Snogre. This thing is crazy good. So 2 of those each. If you would like to replace those different hand traps, go for it. I'd recommend it, but keep that in mind. Those things are very powerful. And finally, the last monster in the deck, we're running Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. This card is super good. Like, it's kind of weird. This card in itself is the Garnet of the deck. You definitely don't want to see in your opening hand. It's not the end of the world if you do, but it's, let's go over it. So you're going to be using this card as a target to summon with Nightmare Mermaid first and foremost, but its first effect being that when this card is normal summon, you can special summon a link monster from your graveyard to summon that points to it. If you go on to the combo, you can kind of see that with Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Phoenix, yada yada. You can have a lot more plays with it, but the most common one you'll see is getting back Cerberus from the grave to point to it. Its second effect is kind of its passive thing, is that you can whoever controls this card cannot summon or cannot special summon monsters except for link monsters. So effectively making them use that normal summon, link out if they want to go into any other plays, which can really, really screw up your opponent. This card is insanely powerful in a lot of decks, especially in this one. And its third effect is when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can then special summon it to your opponent's side of the field, and that's kind of where that whole not being able to summon monsters except for link monsters thing comes in. Incredibly powerful, beautiful card art, by the way. Hashtag waifus boys. That card is great. And next, we're going to go on to the spell cards. We are actually running quite a bit of them. Not too much, to be honest, compared to other decks, because you mainly want to have monsters to summon out for Firewall Dragon, kind of get the loops out. But we are running 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is in this deck at 3 because hand traps are awful. You want to see this card essentially in every single opening hand just to kind of give you that extra protection. Not the end of the world if you don't, but this card is great. You can target cards in the graveyard, or target monsters in the graveyard, banish them, negate their effects, and all that jazz. Super powerful, very, very good value if you're able to get 3 copies of those. And it's in common reprint now. You should be able to get them. It's so good. Next on to the one-ofs, we got 1 copy of Moon Mirror Shield, another target for Izzle to banish, but in addition to that, kind of helps getting over monsters that you can't necessarily take care of otherwise. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, this card's nuts as always, and 1 copy of Rhoda, literally searches any card in your entire deck, and is recently reprinted in a nice ultra rare, so that's super keen. These cards are really good in the deck, obviously. Those are those. And the 3 most important spell cards in your deck are going to be Divine Sword, Phoenix Blade. This card is incredible. It has free card advantage. You can banish 2 warrior monsters from the graveyard and add this card back to hand. Incredibly powerful card. Not only can you add, 300? Ooh, so powerful to your warrior monsters you equip it to, but that getting back to hand thing is really important, especially with the Nightmare combos. So that's awesome. One of the most important cards in the Nightmare combo in general, regardless of what build you're running, is Gouki Rematch. This one is in beautiful Starfoil rare because I have an interesting story with that could get into later. Gouki Rematch is pretty nuts. You can target 2 Gouki monsters with different levels in your graveyard and special summon them out into the field. It's a pretty crucial spell card early on in the combo. If your opponent's able to stop this, or if you're able to stop this, or your opponent's able to stop you from doing this, it kind of ends stuff right then and there. Crazy good card, insanely powerful. Next, we have, and last but not least, we have Gouki Face Turn. I am not running Link Karibo inside of my build. Again, this is more of a budget-friendly deck, and I've kind of gone over the combo with the no Link Karibo with the Gouki combo video that I posted earlier. The link and that will be in the description down below if you want to see how kind of Gouki Face Turn and Rematch and all this deck kind of synergizes. But Gouki Face Turn is pretty powerful. What you can do is you can target a Gouki monster or Gouki card on the field, destroy it, and then target a Gouki monster in your graveyard, especially on that target. Really simple card, really simple effect, but it is really good in terms of like synergizing with Firewall Dragon and the whole loop thing. It's pretty great. Watch the video. I'll kind of explain how that works. It's really good, trust me. Next, we're going off to our trap cards. We're running just a few trap cards in the deck, mainly some stuff to kind of stop plays and stop your opponent because this is a going first preferred deck. We got 1 copy of Solemn Judgment, 1 copy of Solemn Warning, 2 copies of Solemn Strike as your Solemn Brigade, and finally 1 copy of Imperial Order, which, by the way, this card has an insane secret rare. It joins the Sick Card Club just for like that spot secret rare. It's kind of a classic thing that I wish Yu-Gi-Oh! Did more often, but wow, it's incredible. Anyways, these cards are really good. You are running the whole Nightmare Griffon thing where you're flipping cards face down out of your deck. Plus, drawing into these is crazy good too. This kind of helps you kind of have that stun deck, so to speak, not allowing your opponent to play. Essentially, you're just like, nah, you can't do this. Nah, you can't do that. Those cards are very powerful for that. Trap cards aren't dead, y'all. Keep that in mind. And next, that's going to be it for the main deck. The main deck is a nice and clean, efficient 40 cards. It is crazy good. Again, you can make some changes if you want to the deck to make it a little more accessible to you. If you have junk forwards, that'd be optimal. Change some of the trap cards or even some of the spell cards if you wish. This is just my preferred build, so yeah, there's that. But the extra deck is one of the most important parts of this entire deck because without it, you know, this deck wouldn't be relevant. So let's start off with the 1 Xyz monster you're running. That's 1 copy of MX Saber Invoker. Again, 1 copy of, what was it called? Galaxy Worm is essentially an MX Saber Invoker into an Izzled. It's crazy good. MX Saber Invoker, you can discard, or you can detach an XYZ material, special summon 1 level 4 Earth Warrior monster from your deck. So crazy good. It's really situational, but it's nice to have as a backup plan if you can't necessarily get Izzled out right away. Speaking of that, we got 2 copies of the Izzled is back to Whizzle, my nizzle. 2 Tales of the Old Noble Knights. This card is incredibly powerful. Like I've been saying it for months. This card is super good and super fun to play, and it's just great. It's a good card. What it allows you to do is when it's link summon, you can add a warrior monster from deck to your hand. Keep in mind you cannot special summon, normal summon, nor activate the effects of cards of that name if you add them to your hand that turn. So do keep that in mind and make smart plays. And the second effect is that you can send an equip card from your deck to the grave and specify a warrior monster with equal level, effectively Octo Stretch. This card is incredibly good. It's also one of the most important cards in the entire combo. Maybe the second most important card in the entire extra deck, to be honest. So, because if your opponent cherries this, you kind of got a whole lot of nothing. Which, speaking of that, a kind of a side tip, if you do get cherried or you know your opponent's running cherries, the winter cherries, whatever it's called, do maybe tech in 1 copy of Mrs. Radiant. The main thing with this card is that you don't necessarily want to do Underclock Taker. I have seen some people do that just because it has the 1 down arrow. The 2 down arrows are pretty important for the combo and performance of the board. So if you're going first and they winter cherries you right off the bat before you're able to get your combos plays or some things going, then you can go into Mrs. Radiant if you know they're running it. This card is mainly a side deck option. It is not main decked, but that's just up to personal preference. The 2 arrows are there. So it is situational, but just do keep that in mind. That card's great. And next, onto the most important engine in the entire deck. Some would say the most entire engine of 2018, and that is the Nightmare engine, starting off with Nightmare Mermaid. So all the Nightmare cards, similar to the Gouki cards, they have several effects that they can do. All of them have a on-link summoned effect. You can discard a card, and then they do something. Nightmare Mermaid's effect is that you can discard a card and special summon out one Nightmare monster from your deck, aka Ibly. And if you do, then you can draw a card. If this card is co-linked, that's actually important. So if the Nightmare monster is co-linked, whenever it activates that effect, then you can draw a card. In addition to that, it has a passive effect, being that whenever a non-co-linked monsters lose a stack, aka 1000 attack and defense, incredibly powerful and can really help kind of get around some monsters if you need it in a clutch position. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Nightmare Phoenix and 2 copies of Nightmare Cerberus. These cards are kind of mere opposites of each other. Nightmare Phoenix, when it's link summoned, you can discard a card, destroy a spell or trap on the field, or one of your opponent controls, excuse me. Nightmare Cerberus, you can discard a card and destroy a special summoned monster that your opponent controls. And in addition to that, you can draw a card if you do, blah, blah. Nightmare Phoenix, if co-linked monsters cannot be destroyed by battle, and Cerberus, co-linked monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects. So those 2 are pretty good. I'm running 2 copies just because I found situations where I kind of needed to get some extra spot removal. I don't necessarily have it in the hand, nor necessarily run it in the main deck, so it's kind of nice to have in this extra deck. Next, 1 copy of Nightmare Goblin. This card is insane. It is essentially a brilliant fusion, but more accessible to different decks. When this card is link summoned, you can discard a card and gain an extra normal summon that turn. And this deck utilizes it extremely well inside the combo, giving you extra link material, summoning out Ibly. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And then you can draw a card right after that. So it's incredible. It's a really good card. In addition to that, its passive effect ain't bad either, being that your co-link monsters cannot be targeted cannot be targeted, period. Crazy card. Super easy to summon, insanely powerful. Next, onto the Sick Card Club cards, I guess, so to speak. 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. This card, you can discard a card and target 1 card on the field, add it back to the deck, so it bounces it back, which is crazy good. In addition to that, you can draw a card there. This card, its passive effect isn't necessarily the most useful, but it does come up in scenarios, and it's kind of nutty when you think about it. So typically speaking, when you're co-linking a bunch of monsters, you have Nightmare Mermaid, Nightmare Goblin, and if you have this card on the field, Nightmare Unicorn, then on your draw phase, for each co-linked Nightmare monster with a different name, you can draw a card. So instead of 1 card, let's say you have Goblin, Mermaid, and Unicorn, which is not uncommon, you draw 3 cards for your draw phase. Absolutely insane. That doesn't come up too often. You're mainly using this as an extra muscle because it is a 2200 body, but that's incredible, and it's a great card. Plus a 6 secret rare. And finally, on to the last Nightmare card in the deck. We got 1 copy of Nightmare Griffon. This card does join the Sick Card Club. This card's actually really nutty. So not only is it a 2500 monster, you can discard a card and set 1 spell or trap card from your graveyard. The most common one being Imperial Order, stopping your opponent from using their spell cards. It's really good. Plus, its passive effect ain't bad either, as that special summon monsters that are not linked cannot activate their effects. Incredibly good. Oh, such a good card. I keep on saying that, like, incredibly good, extremely amazing, fantastic. These cards, this deck is just sick. This deck is just super sick. Finally, we have 1 copy of Curious Lightstorm Dominion to get your card into the graveyard for Nightmare Griffon, 1 copy of Binary Sorceress for the combo for Curious, and 1 copy of Trigate Wizard. He is one of the most important link monsters inside the entire deck. He is super good. Trigate Wizard's crazy powerful. I've been saying it since the card was released. This card is nutty. If it's link 3, which is really common inside this deck, then you can, a quick effect, negate, banish. In addition to that, on your turn, you can banish card on the field. Man, that's so good. It's so good. And finally, the most important card in the extra deck. I said Isil's number 2. This card is number 1. I will say it right here. This card is the most important card in the meta right now. It is meta-defining, so to speak, for a lot of these top-tier decks. Firewall Dragon is incredible. It's so nuts, it's degenerate, it's powerful, and it's just so good. So when a monster leaves the field by battle or sent to the graveyard, then you can special summon a monster from your hand. That kind of is the whole effect that makes this whole loop. You send a monster here, you send it to the graveyard for links. You send it again, you special summon out, you go back and forth. And because this deck can really abuse and spam, that it is disgusting. Keep on just like pausing for a second, because it is a really powerful, really degenerate card, but allows all this to be possible. Very good. Firewall Dragon is the most important card into this extra deck. It's awesome. Its secondary effect, if you do not know, is that it can bounce. When it's co-linked with cards, you can bounce cards back to the hand from the field or graveyard, up to the number of monsters that it is co-linked to. So that will come up pretty often, and you'll actually use that inside the combo as well. But it's also nice if you want to leave it on the field just to have as far as like kind of wearing your opponent's way, like I'm going to bounce something back from your field. So it's kind of nice. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the deck. What do you guys think of it? What do you guys think of the Gouki monsters? You guys like it? You guys like the deck? Do you guys hate the deck? Have you played the Gouki monsters? Have you played against them? I think this deck's super sick. I love it a lot. And it's really fun for me to play. I've kind of found a nice version that kind of works for me. It's a nice budget option, has some nice plays. And in addition to that, if you guys follow me on Twitter, you guys know that I have been kind of casually pulling cards about one box set a week, or one box set of Flames Destruction 1 week after it came out for like, it was like $70, and I pulled the entire Nightmare engine, except for like 2 cards, which is incredible. Then the rest of the cards I got from opening just random packs here and there. It's just so good. It's just so good. I'm maybe the luckiest man alive, because I know this deck isn't necessarily the most budget right now, so to speak, just because of a few options, but you can make it pretty budget friendly if you can cut certain cards out. But maybe that's just me. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the deck profile? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you guys like the video? Make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Got a lot more videos coming in the pipeline, so stay tuned to that if you want to. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Peace out.